My name is Kira Haddad, and I am 28 years old. I live in New Haven, Connecticut, a place filled with history, art, and education. Growing up, I was always the curious type, wanting to know everything about the world around me. I pursued a degree in political science, which ultimately led me down a winding path filled with complex issues, conflicts, and injustices. I had always been passionate about human rights, but I never thought I would find myself in the middle of a personal conflict as intense and profound as the one that was about to grip my life. It all started with the news we have all seen a million times before, but for me, it struck a different chord. A core of rage and disbelief that transformed me into a person I had never expected to become. In October of 2023, I was scrolling through social media when I stumbled upon a news item about violence erupting in Gaza. It was another harrowing update about countless rockets being launched, lives being torn apart, and memories shattered in an instant. I felt my stomach lurch, a helplessness gnawed at my very core. I wanted to scream, to cry, and to fight back against the narrative I found discordant and unjust. I was particularly struck by one specific facet of the news: the mention of 7,000 rockets launched on a single day, killing many innocents. It was enormous, devastating, and utterly horrifying. But more than that, it was infuriating. It felt as though there was a concerted effort to drown out voices who sought to defend justice, balance, and dignity. My heart burned as I reflected on how such intense violence perpetuates a cycle of hatred and revenge that often spirals out of control. I felt dejected by how many people were shouting blanket statements without understanding the complexities involved. The entire situation seemed stacked against reason, and I could only think of one thing. I needed a way to counter the narrative that worshipped violence without understanding its true nature. I wanted to respond in a way that addressed the truth and stood firmly against the madness. I decided to create what I referred to as 7,000-word rockets, not physical missiles, but rather posts filled with substantial arguments and thoughtful analyses that could shake the very foundations of misconstrued beliefs. I thought using Reddit would be a fitting arena for my endeavors. Reddit was brimming with discussions where every voice could be heard. So, without hesitation, I made my way to the most visible subreddit dedicated to the Israel-Palestine conflict, the subreddit r/Israel-Palestine. I worked hard on my first post, pouring my heart and soul into each word, developing arguments that were additionally backed by historical facts, and I nailed it. I genuinely thought I was doing something valuable, but to my shock, they did not appreciate my insights. They did not merely push back against my ideas. I was banned almost instantaneously. That initial rejection stung more than I could have expected. It left me feeling entirely defeated and lost, like a warrior who had been cast out before the battle even began. I wandered aimlessly around Reddit, struggling to find my footing. I observed discussions that ranged from empathetic and insightful to foolish and inflammatory. I knew there had to be a way to make my voice heard in this chaotic cacophony of opinions. Quiet moments of reflection soon turned into nights of strategy. That is when my thoughts turned to the idea of disguise. I realized that to combat my enemy, I needed to step into the shoes of those I aimed to engage. I decided to adopt a pseudonymous persona, an Islam account, as I fondly called it. I chose an Arabic name that echoed strength, hoping it would resonate appropriately in that space. I selected a hero from history, an old Egyptian alchemist, someone who represented knowledge and wisdom. I adorned my account with the flag of Pakistan because I was drawn to its colors, a vibrant green and white, so similar to those in my environmental projects, which had always symbolized growth and hope. Immersing myself in this new identity, I enthusiastically dived into every Islamic subreddit I could find. The transformation was not merely superficial. I aimed to learn. I researched diligently about Islamic traditions, practices, and philosophy. I familiarized myself with the life of Muhammad, the historical context of religious texts, and all that surrounded the rich background of Islam. I engaged in discussions, exchanged thoughts with users, and even played the part of a passionate follower, defending positions that were pivotal to the Islamic community. But things did not come easily. Every post was met with scrutiny, and I often came under fire. But with each interaction, I grew stronger in my understanding, and I managed to cultivate a sense of empathy for perspectives I had previously dismissed as intolerable. I truly believed that my unique blend of knowledge and passion would eventually create a safe harbor for constructive insights concerning the Israel-Palestine situation. I even went as far as creating a subreddit, hoping to foster dialogue and reach out to individuals on the other side of the opposing viewpoint. Yet the darker side of Reddit hit me again. My account was swiftly suspended. My futile efforts felt like the air was being sucked out of my resolve. The very world I had sought to understand and engage with now felt cold and inhospitable, pushing me off the very stage where I believed I could have made a difference. Initially, I felt like I had lost everything, but I soon realized that I had absorbed a wealth of knowledge, and rather than retreat in despair, I could take that information and shape it into something more powerful. Once again, the embers of vengeance sparked within me, only this time fueled by unearned wisdom and burning fury. I reprised my story architecture. I balled up those insights I had gathered and unleashed them into one final rebuttal. So began the arduous task of crafting what I regarded as my ultimate 7,000-word rockets. The stakes were paramount, and this time, my resolve was unyielding. I pored over the facts I had distilled, scrutinizing every piece of information. I wedged their arguments against my own perspectives, hoping to formulate a response so comprehensive that it shone a glaring light on truths that had often been shrouded in darkness. The original problem, the cycle of violence, the repetition of hate, loomed larger than ever, and every attempt I had made felt as though it had left me standing on the very precipice of collapse. As I clicked the post button on a new thread within the subreddit r/Government of Gaza, I sat in a state of anticipation mixed with dread. I knew I had to summon every ounce of bravery. Would they understand? Would my words ignite conversation and contemplation? Or would they dismiss me as just another voice of opposition in an argument where no one was truly listening? And then the reactions came flooding in. Some welcomed my views, launching discussions into realms deeper than simply blaming one side over the other. Others hurled insults, condemning me for daring to challenge their beliefs. I felt myself being thrust into a tumultuous storm, where the winds of critique and confusion swirled all around me. But I did not break. Instead, I stood my ground, effectively engaging with those who sought to converse further. I discovered something profound in those moments. Empathy has a way of uniting perspectives that chaos often seeks to fracture. I molded together narratives that many had swirled around for years and linked them with the significance of mutual understanding. What began as an effort in wrath slowly transformed into a chance for healing and reconciliation. With each word I wrote, I sought to paint a far larger picture, one that illustrated how real justice could manifest beyond the cycles of retaliation. Soon, an unexpected twist unraveled the narrative I thought I controlled. Just as I began to feel clutches of hope closing around the potential for sincere dialogue, I found myself being contacted by a member of the very community I had infiltrated. A fellow user reached out to me privately, proposing a live conversation. Their profile echoed authenticity, suggesting they were genuinely interested in meaningful dialogue rather than a battle of words. While fear coursed through me, my heart raced at an opportunity I could not resist. Could this be a step towards creating something greater than I had ever anticipated? Our conversation blossomed into a respectful exchange filled with personal stories, beliefs, and aspirations. In that moment, it was not just about winning arguments or evoking rage. It was about connecting as people, breaking the barriers that had initially seemed too daunting to dismantle. As we maneuvered through the complexities together, I discovered something amazing. Shared humanity could stand against the darkness of violence and hatred. The experience led me to reflect on where I had started and where I now stood. What had once been a battlefield transformed into a common ground where we could express ideas without condemnation. I realized my desire for revenge shifted from attacking anyone opposing me to seeking a deeper understanding of those fighting for what they believed. With that understanding became clarity. My story was not just mine, but echoed across countless lives, filled with dreams and aspirations to break free from the chains of hatred that had long bound them. As I walked through the streets of New Haven now, I felt a sense of empowerment and belonging unlike any I have ever known. The lessons learned through digital drafts became a guide, helping me navigate my own path and encouraging me to share this knowledge in real-world settings. I began organizing community dialogues, reaching out to others determined to make a change, collaborating on projects that focused on education and the exchange of stories. In conclusion, the retribution I initially sought went through a metamorphosis. The internet, like all sources of conflict, held both the weapon of division and the voice of unity. I emerged not merely as Kira Haddad, someone challenged by the chaos of the world, but as a vessel for change, built from resilient fragments of dialogue and brutal honesty. While the original shadows lingered, what I had thought was revenge grew into a journey toward understanding, connection, and possibility. And that, my friends, was the greatest victory of all.